very squeaky floor. Hi, it's Sandy from sandymain.com. So what I'm going to do is I'm just heating up some pierogies. I'm cheating, I bought some from the store. But I like to have them with onions, so I'm throwing in some onions. I had fried these up the other day a little bit, so I'm just going to reheat them. And it's funny. Sometimes I tend to crave things from when I was a young girl, and my parents are both from of European descent. My dad was born in Poland, and my mom's parents were born in Poland, but she was actually born here when they moved here. So my mom I remember coming home from school, and my mom would be making pierogies by hand, standing in her kitchen making pierogies. It was so nice. And I remember when I would go over to my grandmother's house and we'd visit, they would be making pierogies together. Now what I have in here is olive oil, and I'm just going to add a little bit of butter. And a little secret is if you add butter to olive oil, it will prevent the butter from burning. Yeah. I have so many great memories. Whenever I went to my grandmother's house, the men all sat around the table, and the women were cooking and just constantly bringing out food. And the kids would be playing in the living room. And, they'd come in and grab some nibblies and then run back to the living room to play or watch TV. So I just have, with these pans, you really don't want to put them over medium heat. Right now I have these at 4. I'm just reheating them though, so it's not going to, I always like to spread them all through my pan. Since I'm just reheating them, I just want to cook them just a little bit more, and just so they have a bit of clarity. Now my favorite pierogies of all are sauerkraut pierogies. I just love them. These are the ones I've been using. Grandma's pierogies, sauerkraut, bacon, and potato. These are the best sauerkraut pierogies I could find. But to be honest, mine are so much better. I just don't have time to make them right now, and these are emergency craving pierogies. So my water's nearly boiling. Pierogies are so easy to make, right? So the difference between a homemade pierogi and a store-bought pierogi is the thickness of the dough. Because most of these pierogies are made by machines, and pretty well any brand that you purchase in a bag, in a store, in the frozen section, they've all been made by machines, and they're making such mass quantities of them that they have to make the dough a little bit thicker. Otherwise, what happens was when they're putting in the filling, they're putting it together and packaging and freezing them, the dough is all tearing, and then that's not good. You want a pierogi that's going to be solid. So it's nice at home because you can make it that thin, really nice thin dough where it just melts in your mouth and you have your filling. And I would add so much more. Like this has bacon and potato, but I would also add onion. I think onion makes such a big difference with a pierogi. I'm just waiting for my water to boil, because when I add the pierogies to the water, it's going to cool the water temperature down quite a bit, and I don't want it to do that too much. It'll come back up, but I just want it to boil. And that prevents the pierogies from sticking to the bottom of your pot as well. I think what I am going to do, though, is... That's my cat. I'm going to add a little bit of salt to my water. This is Himalayan pink sea salt. I got it at the dollar store. It was $2.50. Pretty good. I usually don't find that there. Usually I get it in bags and put it in my salt mill. I have this really cool salt mill where it's good. This is my pepper mill, my salt mill. And I really like, I got some peppercorns in there. I'm out of salt though. I gotta get some. It's hard to find a really good salt mill and pepper mill. Usually they tend to not twist, but those ones have been working really good, so I'm very happy with them. Okay, so I'm going to, I think I'm just going to dump them in. Just be careful of splashing. You don't want to get splashed with the hot water. Okay. Alright, give it a little stir. You don't want them sticking to the bottom. That would be awful, because then all the dough will tear and your filling ends up filling up the water. What my mom used to do is she'd open a can of Campbell's mushroom soup, creamy mushroom soup. She would just add a teeny bit of cream to it, not very much, just to sort of liquefy it a bit. She'd warm it up, and that would be the gravy that we would use on top of our, oopsie. That would be the gravy that we used on top of our pierogies. There we go. Sometimes I've added mushrooms in here too, and that tastes really good, because if you're using the mushroom soup and you have fresh mushrooms and you've got the onions and all these delicious flavors. Yeah. It's quite time consuming making pierogies from scratch. It usually takes a whole day, and it really is nice if you have people helping you do it. Oh, that makes it so much better, because you can have fun, you can talk, you can laugh, and everybody's working as a team, and that makes it a lot more enjoyable. Cooking is always more fun with more people, but sometimes it's nice just to be sort of melancholy, and just, you know, the sounds of the sizzling and the cooking and moving things around and seeing the progress. It's kind of like a garden. You do a little bit at a time, and then you see the results. I'm just going to grab a plate. So it's starting to heat up again. You can see the steam, a bit of starchiness in the water. But as soon as those pierogies start to float, I'll be taking them out. Just gonna grab a slotted spoon. I have a cat. Her name is Muffin, and she has just been around me constantly all day. Interesting. Yeah, I don't want these, I want them to cook, but I don't want them to get too overcooked. I don't want them all crispy brown, just nicely cooked. Put an extra light here. Maybe too much for one person. There we go. Just give them a little. I just do not want them to stick to the bottom of my pot. Then it tears the dough and everything ends up in your water. This will be so delicious. Sometimes when you're cooking, patience is a virtue. Especially when you're hungry. This is on high and this is on number 4. I really like using red onions. I don't know, the flavor of a red onion just seems to be so nice. And I also find it doesn't make me cry quite as much, but when I'm cutting onions, I always light a candle. I have a candle in my kitchen, and as soon as I do my first cut, I start to cry, and then I just think, uh-oh, gotta light that candle. Candles are so sweet. They're romantic. I think I'm going to turn, no, I'll be ready. What do you want, Muffin? You've been meowing at me all day. You have food, you have water, you just want love and attention, I think. My mom, when she would cook the onions, she would use bacon fat. She always kept her bacon fat. And I know these days you're not supposed to use bacon fat, but I'd have to tell you I still have a jar of bacon fat in my fridge. Because sometimes just when you use that bacon fat, it adds the flavor of bacon without having bacon. I don't like cooking bacon. It's very splattery and messy, and so I only do it 2 or 3 times a year. And otherwise, I just keep a little bit of fat in there. Now, I did not do that with these. But once in a blue moon, usually if I have bacon fat in my fridge, it lasts quite a long time. That jar can be in there for years. I'm going to turn my onions down to 2. Just waiting for these pierogies. They're starting to just float a little bit. Let's see if you can see that. You can. Alright. Now, there are 2 ways to do pierogies. You can either just put them on your plate like that, or you could just give them a little fry. So what I'm going to do is just to cook them up just a teeny bit more. I'm just going to put them on top of my onions. Yeah. But I like them like this as well. My mom never fried them. She didn't learn about frying pierogies until after, I'm going to turn that off, until after I was an adult, and I don't even know where I saw it. I think I saw it on a cooking show. I don't know. I went to a restaurant once, they had pierogies, and that was one of the options. Now, to prevent them, my mom would put them in a massive bowl, and all the pierogies would go in there, but she would always put butter on them because otherwise all the dough sticks together, and then again you have the tearing problem. So I'm just, let's not do that now. I'm putting them here. There's one more in there. Snip that out. I'm just going to put a little butter on these just so they don't, when they dry and they stick to each other. So they're not too bad here since they're all separated. There we go. There we go. Put on these ones. And I'm going to turn my other element off and stop cooking those. Let's put these here. So, now normally people just give them a little flip and just heat up both sides. Oh, someone's home. Good. Okay, so let's move these around. I have 4 of those. some onions, put them over top. I always like to use a spatula because I hate wasting anything. So, put these onions over these pierogies. A few more here. There we go. And a scoop of sour cream. It's a very tiny spoon, so I'll use 2 scoops. And this is for some other people who have wants to have some. And I like to put a little bit of parsley, and I don't usually cut my parsley, I just cut it with scissors because it's so much easier. There. There we go. Hold on. And that's how you make pierogies. Polish style. Have a great day.